This is the news on 92.3 Nigeria in.
It's Wednesday, February 11, 2026. And continuous voters registration is on. Use the opportunity to register votes. On the news this evening, private sector welcomes President Tinubu's intervention in Rivers' political crisis, expresses optimism for economic growth. Energy expert urges Rivers State government to leverage new power sector law to boost economy. NAFDAC denies reports of suspension on Sache alcohol regulation. On the foreign scene, Trump to host Israeli Prime Minister Netanyahu at White House amid rising Middle East tensions and Iran talks. Details of these and more will be reaching you in a moment. I am Okey Onwugbonu. We begin the news this hour with reactions to President Bola Tinubu's third intervention in the Rivers State political crisis. Residents of Port Harcourt are sharing mixed reactions to the declaration of peace in Rivers State by the Minister of the Federal Capital Territory, Onwugbonu, in President Bola Tinubu's intervention in the state's political crisis. Speaking with our correspondent, Christiana Kuki, some residents expressed doubt about the longevity of the peace, cautioning that underlying political tensions may persist despite the proclamation. Others, however, expressed optimism, hoping that this time the reconciliation will be enduring.
It's the first time they're trying to bring peace between Onwugbonu and the present governor. It seems as if maybe it's going to work, and it did not work. And we truly believe that even this one, it will not even work. I don't think there will be peace in Rivers State because they are all playing politics. Even the president himself is also playing politics. He knows what he wants. I know what he's doing.
Well, the way the things is going, there will be peace. But it has been happening, not only this one that has happened, that has been happening, the crisis will come and still go. I think the thing it will end.
The intervention of the president should bring about the peace everybody is expecting in Rivers State.
Another group of residents told our correspondent Belema Nakase that the president's involvement in resolving the political crisis places him in a strategic position to shape the state's political future.
With the president's intervention, it is due and it can help him to influence the political future of this state because the president is the power center of the country.
And they now finally, Lord, not that we Lord, the guy now finally, that's the governor of the state now finally went to the APC, that's the president's party. Now that struggle is still there. What the president is looking for is how to secure the state.
Meanwhile, the Rivers Entrepreneur and Investors Forum has welcomed the recent political reconciliation in Rivers State between Governor Siminalayi Fubara and the FCT Minister Onwugbonu, facilitated by President Bola Tinubu, calling it a boost for peace and economic growth. RF President Ibifiri Bob Manuel told our correspondent Ifunayo Bemendukwe that the peace will bring economic benefits, improve the ease of doing business, and positively impact the Nigerian economy. He urged Governor Fubara and the FCT Minister Wike to ignore the detractors and stress the private sector's role in development, noting that major projects, including a $3 billion initiative, are set to start in Rivers State if peace coexistence continues. In the meantime, an energy expert, Innocent Lord Douglas, is urging the Rivers State government to take full advantage of the newly enacted power sector law to boost the state's economy. Dr. Lord Douglas made the call in an interview with our correspondent Swebi Oruwari, while highlighting the numerous benefits the state stands to gain by keying into the provisions of the new power sector framework. According to him, effective implementation of the law will not only improve electricity supply, but also attract investments and economic growth across the states.
The Rivers State government should have partnership with Sahara Energy that are running the IPP, the four turbines in Rivers State. If they have a partnership with them, there is going to be excess energy in Rivers State, and then it's going to increase revenue. It's going to reduce youth effectiveness because there is going to be employment opportunity. We are also going to export energy energy, because what we need now is about 350 megawatts. If we get anything more than that, we can give to other states and we are going to earn money.
Lord Douglas, who is a spokesperson of the Logan-led leadership of the Trade Union Congress in Rivers State, says the union plans to meet with the state governor, Siminalayi Fubara, to discuss areas where Rivers State can leverage the new law for socio-economic development.
We have tried to meet with the governor, but with this call that are so intensified, that the Trade Union Congress are going to do another letter to the governor to meet with the governor, advise the governor on what he's going to do on the electricity sector for the benefit of the rivers people. Because it has a multiplying effect. It's going to increase their internally generated revenue. It's going to bring back companies into the state to reduce youth restiveness, as there are going to be multiple employment opportunities.
Away from that, the concerns about the Electoral Act, coordinator of the Transition Monitoring Group in Rivers State, Nathaniel Akbos, says the Senate decision to retain the clause permitting the use of the EC8A form is an indirect way of empowering the Independent National Electoral Commission to determine the mode of transmission of election results. Akbos made this known in an interview with our correspondent, Swebi Oduwari, while reacting to the Senate's defense of its decision to retain the existing clause that allows electronic transmission of election results, with a caveat tied to the use of the EC8A and EC8B forms.
Supposed to be a jubilation for the people and citizens of Nigeria. But as it stands, clauses were not properly passed. It gives room to manual way of transmitting election results. It still means that the polling unit officers are will to tell you at their own discretion that the electronic system did not work. Such they are permitted to also transmit this result manually.
According to him, civil society organizations are advocating for lawmakers to use the Harmonization Committee to correct perceived errors in the electoral amendment process.
What we want in civil society is a mandatory electronic transmission of results and nothing more. No other clause than transmitting the result. INEC has the capacity to carry out this simple task so that Nigeria will enjoy free and fair elections. Simply no need for what they are celebrating in the Senate, that they have amended the Electoral Act. It's a waste of time and a waste of taxpayers' money.
Meanwhile, a Port Harcourt-based legal practitioner, Vincent Chukwu, says the Senate has not carried out any meaningful amendment to the Electoral Act in the retention of the existing clauses. Chukwu, however, called for the introduction of clear constitutional provisions to remove electoral malpractice and rigging in the country, stressing that such laws would strengthen Nigeria's democratic process.
We are clamoring that the law, Nigerian law, should be amended whereby a person who is found guilty of winning an election will also suffer the same fate as a coup plotter. The Nigerian law ought to be amended because there is no such law now equating an election rigger to a coup plotter. Therefore, we are clamoring for that amendment, that the punishment for a coup plotter should be the same as somebody who is found wanting in rigging of an election, which is subversion of the overall will of the people.
In a related development, the Defense for Human Rights and Democracy has joined the call for the real-time electronic transmission of election results. Chairman of the group, Clifford Solomon, says it is disappointing that since Nigeria's return to democracy in 1999, election results have allegedly not reflected the true wishes of the electorate. Solomon describes the position of members of the National Assembly as undemocratic, warning that if not properly addressed, it could create room for election manipulation, rigging, and voter apathy.
Defense for Human Rights and Democracy, DHRD, is really disappointed with the National Assembly, especially the upper chamber, Senate, for not approving real-time electronic transmission of election results. This undemocratic act of theirs, if not tamed, will give room for election manipulation and rigging. DHRD unequivocally supports true democracy. Therefore, anything that will crush the hope of the people to freely, fairly, and transparently elect candidates of their choice in any given election should be vehemently resisted.
He, however, calls on other civil society organizations to mobilize and push for a better amendment of the Electoral Act by the National Assembly.
electoral outcome. The National Assembly should amend the Electoral Act in a manner that will deepen our democracy and boost citizens' confidence. On this note, the Defense for Human Rights and Democracy DHRD is calling on all civil society organizations, CSOs, to mobilize and push for a better Electoral Act amendment by the National Assembly.
Let's go on a quick break. When we return, NAFDAC denies reports of suspension on such alcohol regulation. Stay tuned.
This is the news on 92.3 Nigeria Info.
You're welcome back. Now, the rest of the news. Suspected youth reportedly killed the secretary of the Omolu family, Samuel Nchelem, on Tuesday night in Omonwe, Iguruta, Equator local government area. The incident reportedly forced the arrest of two suspected motorcycle thieves who allegedly stole a motorcycle belonging to a man and were brought into the Omolu community. Confirming the incident, Community Development Committee Chairman of Iguruta, Lucky Matthew, told our correspondent Emeka Otuka that Nchelem was stabbed to death by the Northern youths while accompanying members of the local vigilante group OSPAC to hand over the suspect at the Iguruta police station. He says the youths arrived in the community on more than 500 motorcycles, intercepted the vehicle and launched an attack. Matthew adds that a member of the vigilante group sustained serious machete injuries and is currently receiving treatment in the hospital. He noted that normalcy has since returned to the community but calls on the chairman of a local government area to ban the operation of motorcycles in Iguruta. He also confirmed that the matter has been reported to the Iguruta Police Division. Meanwhile, the Rivers State Police Command spokesperson CSP Grace Iringe Koko told our correspondent that she would provide an official response. In another development, a suspected improvised explosive device exploded on Wednesday morning at the Bayelsa State Secretariat complex in Yenagoa, causing panic and a temporary disruption of work. The explosion has happened around 6 a.m., prompting an immediate response from the Bayelsa State Police Command and other security agencies. The Commissioner of Police, Iyama, confirmed that no one was injured and no property was damaged. As a precaution, the Bayelsa State government ordered a 4-hour closure of the Secretariat, affecting over 6,000 workers. Moving on, the National Agency for Food and Drug Administration and Control has denied reports that the federal government ordered it to stop regulating such alcohol and 200 milliliters petable alcoholic drinks. In a statement, the agency described the report as false and misleading, saying it had received no official communication to halt its enforcement activities. NAFDAC said it continues to operate within its legal mandate and government policies, focusing on public health and regulatory compliance. Director General Professor Mojishola Adeyeye urged the public, media, and industry stakeholders to rely only on verified information from NAFDAC or official government channels and warns against spreading unverified reports that could cause panic or confusion. The agency reaffirms its commitment to safeguarding public health, maintaining economic stability, and protecting the national interest. On aviation matters, an Arik Air Boeing 737 aircraft flying from Lagos to Port Harcourt developed an engine problem mid-air on Wednesday and was forced to divert to Benin Airport. The Nigerian Safety Investigation Bureau says the crew noticed abnormal engine readings during the flight and shut down the affected engine as a safety measure before diverting to the nearest airport. The aircraft landed safely in Benin and all passengers and crew disembarked without injury. NSIB says it is working with the Nigerian Civil Aviation Authority, Arik Air, and other stakeholders to investigate the incident and determine what happened. In entertainment, Grammy-winning Nigerian singer Temilade Openiyi, known as Tems, has become the first African female artist to have 7 songs on the US Billboard Hot 100 chart. Her latest hit, What You Need, debuted at number 93, bringing her total entries to 7. Thames now ties with fellow Nigerian Bono Boy and South African group Setha for the most Billboard Hot 100 entries by African artists. And in sports, Tottenham Hotspur have sacked head coach Thomas Frank. The club announced on Wednesday. The decision followed Tuesday's 2-1 home defeat to Newcastle, which left Spurs 16th in the Premier League, just 5 points above relegation zone.
And now we bring you news from around the world.
President Donald Trump will host Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu at the White House on Wednesday amid rising tensions in the Middle East and ongoing talks over Iran's nuclear program. Netanyahu is expected to urge Trump to push for a deal that would stop Iran's uranium enrichment, limit its ballistic missile program, and end its support for groups such as Hamas and Hezbollah. Iran has indicated it will scale back its nuclear activities in exchange for sanctions relief, but has rejected demands related to its missile program and regional allies. Ahead of the meeting, Iranian President Masoud Pezeshkian says Iran would not accept what he describes as excessive demands.
This is the news on 92.3 Nigeria Info.
And that's our package on the news this evening. You heard that the private sector has welcomed President Bola Tinubu's intervention in the Rivers State political crisis and has expressed optimism for economic growth in the states. We told you that an energy expert is urging the Rivers State government to leverage on the new power sector law to boost the state's economy. You heard that NAFDAC has denied reports of suspension on sachet alcohol regulation. And on the foreign scene, President Donald Trump will host Israeli Prime Minister Netanyahu at the White House amid rising Middle East tensions and Iran talks. That was the news as edited by Ifunanya Obemendukwe. To reach the news team, send an SMS or WhatsApp message to 0808-721-7215. I am Okey Onwugbonu. Good evening. Many thanks for listening.